Dante's Inferno, one of the most recognizable classic biblical tales. It is one of the most translated pieces of Italian literature and has become the dictionary by which many define the inner structure of hell. Even if it's not strictly biblical canon, Dante's Inferno, otherwise known as Divine Comedy, has become an extremely popular and widely accepted entry into the modern religious zeitgeist. There are simply not enough words to convey the theological and artistic impact that this story has had on human culture, and no amount of analysis that I could give would begin to scratch the surface of its linguistic depth. But wouldn't it be cooler with pizza and guns? If you follow me on Instagram, you've surely seen the influx of Devil May Cry related memes and posts, and that is because for the past 2 months, I have been relentlessly working my way through the Devil May Cry series. Specifically, I have completed each of the main stories for DMC 3, 4, and 5, all in one go in an attempt to decide whether or not they live up to the hype. So, without further ado, let's jump into my thoughts as a brand new player to the DMC franchise with the first entry that I played, Devil May Cry 3. Many may be unfamiliar, but Devil May Cry actually began its life as a Resident Evil title. Series creator Hideki Kamiya, also known for his work on Resident Evil 1 and 2, was tasked with making a brand new Resident Evil game for the turn of the millennium. This build featured a drastic shift in many core aspects that were staples of the Resident Evil franchise at this point. And while some of those changes would eventually make it to Resident Evil 4, such as a more dynamic camera, the rest were deemed to be too much of a departure from the series' core values. So in response to this, Kamiya took the work that he and his team had done for Resident Evil 4 and pivoted into a brand new title known as Devil May Cry. This new game was focused on high-energy action and a flashy, stylish gameplay, and it left the downtrodden tone of Resident Evil behind for a much more upbeat and cool vibe that has become a hallmark of the franchise. This new game sold extremely well. In fact, all DMC games have done great by Capcom standards, with each entry, even the ones that no one likes, reaching platinum status. Looking back, it seems that the core development for DMC 1 is what defines the series and has propelled it to such great heights. In fact, it's said that its extreme action-focused gameplay is responsible for the creation of the extreme combat subgenre, which is characterized by extremely powerful player characters taking on hordes of enemies with hyper-stylized combat and over-the-top visuals. These are core themes found in the lifeblood of every DMC game, and Devil May Cry 3 is an excellent distillation of what DMC is all about at its core. Now, Devil May Cry 3 is where I started for this review process, and as such, it'll be the first up to be reviewed. I decided to start here on the recommendation of one of my close friends who is a massive fan of the DMC franchise, and on that same recommendation, I entirely skipped both DMCs 1 and 2. So if you want my thoughts on those, let me know in the comments. Getting right into it though, DMC 3 wastes no time in getting its gameplay going. In the first few minutes, you get to see Dante do some cool shit with guns and chow down on some pizza, so that way the player knows that he's a cool guy. This no bullshit approach to the story is present for the entire game, and in certain ways the whole series, but later games will become a bit more cinematic. In Devil May Cry 3, however, the story is mostly there to give Dante and other prominent characters chances to really flex their style. The cutscenes are just as action-packed as the gameplay, and they even take things a step up to show really creative fights and combat choreography that simply could not be done in gameplay on the PS2. Stylistic choices aside, however, I would say that the story is pretty serviceable in this game. Of course, it follows the two brothers who are at the center of all of these games, Dante and Virgil, half-demon twins with inherently conflicting ideologies that perpetually put them at odds. Honestly, it's a tale as old as time between the twins, so the game really needs to be unique in displaying their conflict in order to make it compelling, and boy does it succeed in that regard. Dante and Virgil are introduced as polar opposites, with the former playing things fast and loose with a relaxed attitude, and the latter being disciplined, controlled, and a glutton for power who will stop at nothing to gain more and more power. Virgil's obsession over the P word has single-handedly spawned perhaps the biggest meme to come from the series, and I wouldn't want it any other way. The story is just as over the top as the gameplay here, which makes for a sense of thematic cohesion between gameplay and story. All that said, however, while I love the Devil May Cry 3 story, what I really want to look at is the gameplay. Devil May Cry 3 is a hack and slash experience done like no other at its time. The game gameplay is tight and precise in its execution, but extremely rewarding when you get it down. It's all centered around Dante's weapons and how he uses them. You have melee weapons to start and carry out combos, an array of guns that are used to deal damage at long ranges, but more importantly, to extend combos and keep your style rating up. By cleverly switching between these two weapon classes, you can juggle enemies for as long as you like, provided their health can take it. But clever combo systems are not all this game has to offer. From nunchucks to silver gauntlets, the variety of weaponry here makes for memorable gameplay that lends itself well to creativity and expression through movement and combos. The guns are given the same amount of love too, with the inclusion of a specific gun for any scenario you could encounter. All of the weapons are really unique, and they have their own story behind them. For example, each main melee weapon is acquired after defeating a boss, which makes them feel like a part of the world and a consequence of your actions rather than just a pickup you find along the way. This also makes for a really tangible sense of progression that motivates you to keep pushing forward. In fact, on the subject of bosses, the unique and extremely memorable selection of boss battles makes for varied, challenging markers throughout the game that test not only your ability with your tools, but also your creativity. Many bosses can be fought and killed in more ways than just one. However, no matter what your approach, you're gonna have to be a bit more clever than just throwing yourself sword first into the enemies. All that said, however, it isn't exactly perfect. As a completely new player to the franchise, I had a lot of trouble getting the hang of the basics at first, and while I eventually did get the hang of it, it made starting the game a bit more of a slog than I would have liked. It also doesn't help that I was playing on the Nintendo Switch Joy-Cons for parts of this game, which are a bit too small to be comfortable in high-action, combo-focused gameplay, but that's really not Devil May Cry's fault. Speaking of the Switch, however, the visuals are actually not bad for a PS2 game ported to new hardware. While it may not be quite as realistic or nice-looking as later games, Devil May Cry 3 holds up pretty well. Barring some silly animations, the moves and character models are all very well animated to convey the fast-paced slashing and shooting throughout the game. Compared to the first two games, animations are a bit more natural and character models look a bit less stiff and blocky. However, it was originally developed for the PS2, so it's not exactly an insane level up in terms of quality. What is a drastic improvement, however, is the character designs. Devil May Cry 3 is where Virgil, Dante, and Lady are all given their iconic designs that form the basis for all the following entries into the franchise. For the first time, we get to see Virgil in his sick-ass blue and yellow coat, and Dante in his classic red duster, but this time with chiseled, rock-hard PS2 abs. Unfortunately, the abs do not make a return in future games, but you can mod them into DMC5. Outside of the twins, for the first time we also get to see Lady, who will become a staple character of the Devil May Cry series, and in some ways will come to outshine Trish, who is oddly absent from this game. Lady's design in Devil May Cry 3 sets the basis for her outfits in future games, but like Dante and Virgil, there is a fair bit of deviation from title to title. Personally, I found all the character designs in Devil May Cry 3 to be exceptionally good, with my favorite being Virgil. His classic blue coat with yellow accents complements his cool, calculating nature. The colors perfectly contrast and bounce off of Dante's bright red chaotic theme, which sets up a visual dichotomy that does a really good job at subtly characterizing the two most important people in the series. This excellent visual design makes it easy for new players to get a feel for their personalities and deepen their understanding of the brothers' relationship, even if they haven't played any other DMC games. However, while the character design may be immaculate, I do have some small concerns with the overall look of the game. Since it was originally a PlayStation 2 game, this can largely be written off as a consequence of the time, but there were points where I couldn't help but notice the lackluster lighting. While certain areas look really good and moody and atmospheric, others are a bit too dark for comfortable gameplay, especially as a newcomer. Sometimes I would be playing this game in my Switch on handheld mode, but I would have to stop, get up, go sit at my desk, and plug it into the TV to continue because it just wasn't bright enough and the small screen wasn't helping. Now, like I said earlier, this is largely a consequence of the original hardware's limitations, so I can't fault it too heavily for that. And I fully recognize that playing the game on a portable console that's slightly bigger than a smartphone is probably not going to make for the best experience, but it was still something that bothered me. Those few areas aside, however, I was pretty happy with the lighting. It made for a dark and damp atmosphere that really captured the spooky hell vibe they were going for. It also serves to play up the comedy when Dante busts out some crazy dance moves or rocks out with a literal electric guitar. So I think overall I really enjoyed my time with Devil May Cry 3. Upon starting the game, I certainly had my doubts, partially due to the age of the game game, and partially because it was completely new to me. But as I delved deeper and deeper through the Tower of Hell to kick Virgil's ass, the addicting gameplay and charming attitude really stuck with me. By the end of the journey, I was extremely excited to start Devil May Cry 4, and after I finished the final boss, that's exactly what I did. All things considered, I deem that Devil May Cry 3 does indeed live up to the hype. The gameplay is fluid and addicting, and the story is pretty good for the time. It's at its best when it's showing off all the crazy, over-the-top shit that Dante and the other main characters get up to. While it does lose minor points for graphical quality, on the whole, it still looks fine, and as such, I will give it a final score of 7.5 out of 10. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. This is a new series that I want to start on the channel where I tackle classic anime and games on my backlog and deem if they live up to the hype or not. Expect these to be more of a review, less of an analysis. And let me know what you guys think about the new format. I really want to hear your guys' opinion on this so I can make the best content for you guys. But other than that, make sure to leave me a like so I know I'm doing something right, or if you want to catch more of my videos, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload. Also, I have a Twitter and an Instagram if that interests you. Links to those will be below. But with all that YouTube stuff out of the way, I just want to say thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time.